This video is about the first step in the product design and development process. Here you will identify the problem your case owner is struggling with, which is key to designing an innovative and complementary product. To this end, you will empathize with the case owner. You will start your research with key questions to understand the problem while making a first iteration on its scope and a problem statement. It takes a while, therefore it is important that you start this step as soon as possible. You know which case you are going to work on. Every student in the same group can start the research on its own to formulate a different problem statement for their case. You can take the case owner description and presentation as your starting point. You will probably start with a broad perspective. That is not a problem. There are various questions you can research about and ask to the case owner to better understand and scope down the problem. You may recognize these questions from the first year master course about problem identification. For example, what is the current problem situation? What would be the desired situation instead? Where, when, and how often does the problem happen? What has the case owner done so far? What might be causing the problem, considering different types of causes such as social, technological, economical, political, and environmental? Which of these causes are external to the case owner's own influence? What factors can the case owner actually influence? What is working well and what needs improvement? Last but not least, how could the problem evolve in the future? Let me provide an example of how previous year students groups define and scope the problem to discuss during the World Cafe meetings. To get started, they look into how the news, government, and research reports define problems to pay energy bills, which was central at the time. Students found that in the Netherlands, energy poverty is addressed by ensuring affordable energy prices, supporting energy efficiency housing, and making energy efficiency options accessible. For some low-income households, for example in The Hague, rising prices or inadequate consumption means that about 30,000 households spend above 20% of their income on energy, while 5% is the average. Students also found that the departments working on resilience and energy transition projects in The Hague give energy allowance to eligible residents. However, there is a need to ensure the efficient and effective use of municipal allowance, also by considering that energy needs will continue to grow. Municipal efforts should target residents whose income is not sufficient to pay their energy consumption. Factors increasing the energy demand are external to the municipality, such as sanctions to gas consumption, population growth, and economic crisis. Yet, there are household-related indicators that the municipality can influence with the subsidies, such as housing characteristics, eligible household types, housing income, and energy efficiency targets. Based on the research students did to understand the problem, they proposed the following problem statement. How can the Department of Sustainability, Environment and Transition of the Municipality of The Hague provide energy allowance at neighborhood level? The aim is to address energy poverty without incurring excessive costs and difference among neighborhoods. This problem statement takes The Hague as the geographical scope and the current energy poverty percentages as the temporary scope. Yet, this scope may be redefined in the next step. Let's look at the second example. Students from other groups focus on youth criminalization and formulated the problem at national level. How can the national program prevent youth criminalization in participating municipalities without fragmented prevention and monitoring efforts? They define as geographical scope 47 municipalities where explosives attacks are observed at a neighborhood level. They define youth as a target group by considering individuals aged 8 to 20. They consider undesired effects related to the lack of coordination and monitoring. Finally, students from one last group looked on how can the Management and Operations Department of the Municipality of The Hague maintain the road accessibility in the months leading to the NATO summit. The aim was to avoid additional nuisances, delays, or traffic accidents. To define a doable prototype within the 10 weeks of this course, students agreed with the case owner to make this problem temporary to the NATO summit. They focus on the accessibility of the roads to the meeting as a service infrastructure type. And they look at the influence of security plans for the meeting in traffic delays or traffic accidents. Ideally, each student in the group will propose a problem statement. In either case, it is important to check the relevance of your problem statement. Are the problems insights coming from sufficiently credible reports? Is the problem statement sufficiently applicable to what the client wants to do, timely to the client's goals, and comprehensive yet manageable enough in terms of complexity to get started? Finally, what is the relevance of this problem for the other actors involved? This last check will lead you to the second step of this design and development process, which will be addressed in the next video.